Om Agyana Timinandasya Gyananjana Sharakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Ajanalambita Bujo Kanakavadato Sankirtanaya Kapitaro Kamalaya Taksho Vishwambaro Dvijabaro Yugadharma Palo Vande Jagat Priyakaro Karanavotaro Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Sorito Gorai Pushpavanto Chitro Sando Tomororo Vandeham Shri Ramakrishna Avaya Charanasago Sukado Paramanando Sundaro Subalapriyo He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishavanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Haribol, welcome everyone watching. To those who will be viewing later, I appreciate your time. I was asked by Madan Mohan to give class, and although it's not in my nature, so to speak, to do so, I figured I would make some sacrifice for Kartik. So here I am. The class is going to be on Shri Prapanna-Jivanamtram by Chiramaj, specifically the Prelude. And auspiciously, earlier this week was Sri Ramaj's appearance day, and I figured it'd be nice to offer pranams, offer his pranam mantra as well. So recite that. Devam Divya Tanum Suchanda Varanam Balaka Chilanchitam Sandrananda Puram Sarika Varnam Vairagya Virambudim Shri Sirantanidim Subhakti Lasitam Sarasvata Namvaram Vandetam Shuparam Marika Sharnam Yashishvaram Shviraram. Translation of this is by Govinda Maharaj. His divine form is adorned with garments the color of the newly risen sun. His speech is most pleasing, and he is an ocean of renunciation and knowledge. He is an abode of divine ecstasy, resplendent with pure devotion. He is a treasure house of perfect conclusions, the leader of the Tridandi sannyasis, and the best of Srila Saraswati Thakur's followers. He is the only choice of the sadhus, the giver of all goodness, and my only shelter. I offer my obeisances unto my Lord, Srila Bhakti Rakshak Shiradev Goswami Maharaj. And prompted by Omkar, Guru Maharaj also expressed some desire to write maybe a commentary on that pranam mantra as well, so we can look forward to that. But yeah, so we'll continue honoring Sri Ramaj by looking at his one of his works where he compiled essential verses from the scriptures that all kind of point in the direction, encourage the reader to develop a desire, an understanding, and a dedication to surrender, to Sharanagati. And he kind of organizes the book into different sections based on the verses, either verses of scripture, verses of devotees within scripture, or poems and so forth from recent sadhus, and also verses spoken by Bhagavan. And they're all kind of delineated in the 6 angas of Sharanagati. And before he begins reciting those verses that he's compiled, he begins with a prelude to the book, which is very insightful and full of many beautiful verses that he's composed. It begins with an auspicious invocation, and then he makes a humble petition for offering the book to the devotees. He introduces the subjects, the main subjects that'll be covered, and kind of the summaries of the chapters that he's going to share going forward. And then the book ends in an epilogue. And so in the prelude, I mean, all those parts are very beautiful and worth going through. And hopefully there'll be time to maybe go through all of them. I was really drawn to the theme kind of towards the end of the prelude. He gives the theme of the book, and it's a little simpler, I guess. Some of the invocation and so forth are more layered, very deep, and would probably take a long time to prepare a class for it. So you can forgive me for going out of order in the prelude. And I don't have a word-by-word definition, so I'm just going off of the English translation, which I believe is translated by Bhaktiyananda Sagat Maharaj. So today we're going to be looking at the theme of the text given by Sridhar Maharaj, the Vastu Nirnaya, which is also interestingly a definition of Sharanagati, as that's the theme of the book, Sharanagati. So here's the verse 135. Vastu Nirnaya Bhagavad Bhaktita Sarvam Ityut Srija Vider Api Kankaryam Krishna Paraika Shrayatvam Sharanagati. Theme of the work: being governed by the faith that all success is achieved by serving the Supreme Lord, to abandon servitude to even scriptural injunctions, and take exclusive refuge in the lotus feet of Sri Krishna in every time, place, and circumstance, is known as Sharanagati, unconditional surrender. So, just starting off, just go sentence by sentence and kind of unpack it a bit. The first sentence: being governed by the faith that all success is achieved by serving the Supreme Lord. So Sharanagati is described as like the active component of Shraddha. It's how we can kind of quantify faith of ourselves primarily, but also of others that we're looking to receive guidance from. And we can understand the faith of our our own heart, what we really have faith in by our actions, by our movements, as those are kind of the outer expression of which faith is underlying. And so Sridhar Maharaj says here that the underlying faith of Sharanagati is the conviction that all success is achieved by serving Bhagavan. Anything and everything, all success, simply by serving Bhagavan. So it's a simple and beautiful kind of mantra that we can keep if we want to keep ourselves fixed and attendant to developing Sharanagati. So what is all success? Well, in a kind of broader sense, success could be anything that the jiva desires and wants to attain. In Srimad Bhagavatam 2.3.10, it said, Akama sarva kamava moksha kama uradi tivrena bhakti yogena yadeta parusham param. A person who has broader intelligence, whether he be full of material desires, without any material desires, or desiring liberation, must by all means worship the Supreme Whole, the word personality of Godhead. So here we see Kama, Gyan, Bhakti. So any kind of the desires that may preoccupy the jiva could, in a broader sense, be defined as success. But this is in the context of devotion. So we'll be looking at what does success mean for a devotee, and what is all success. So in the highest sense, that would be prema. The ultimate goal of our path. On sadhana, our goal is bhava, and bhava, the concentration of that is prema, which is said to give the fullest satisfaction to Krishna, and by extension ourselves, to be able to offer that to Krishna and engage in those in that relationship. That would be kind of the ultimate definition of success. And I guess also in a more relative sense, anything and everything that may support and foster that, either directly or indirectly, which may, in a more indirect way, maybe more, physical and mental health, friendly, like-minded community, stable livelihood, sattvic living space, and so forth. So these are all kind of mini successes, maybe, that can help us, support us, and help us continue deeper and deeper on the path towards all success, or prema. And the idea with that verse that I shared from Srimad Bhagavatam, that in a broader sense it's being applied, but in a more specific kind of devotional sense, it's kind of wherever you are on the path of bhakti. If you have, still material desires, if you have, if you're suffering, you want to be freed from material desires, or if in a deeper sense your desire is to please Krishna and serve him, be a vessel of love for him, then ultimately we have to come to the understanding that serving worshiping Krishna is the best means to achieve that. That the Kripa Shakti of Bhagavan is for a jiva from bhava down to the first touch of bhakti in their life. That Kripa Shakti is going to be the most powerful element of helping us achieve whatever we want to achieve. Whatever your sense, understanding of success is, consciously and subconsciously, that worshiping God, Krishna, for that is the method. And so this is kind of the faith that's underlying a Sharanagata. And conversely, for someone who's struggling to develop Sharanagati, I think oftentimes the problem is not that we don't believe prema is the highest success. I think we understand that, at least on a theological level, that prema truly is the highest ideal and our ultimate goal. But we don't believe that prema or any other thing that we really want can be achieved simply by worshiping Krishna. I think we often fall into the tendency that we need something else, something almost outside of Krishna, to be able to achieve those goals. Prema and anything that may help that. And so just kind of coming back, I guess, to that simpler faith. I know Guru Maharaj often gives the example of Vrajbasis doing Dandavat Parikram around Govardhan for simple material successes, to heal their own disease, their mother's disease, to stop a conflict in that region. They have such faith in Govardhan that he's capable, that he's very high up, but he's capable of attending to everything underneath him. It's not that he's blind to it. He's very present and intimately involved with all those things in the eyes of a Sharanagata. And so that may be a good area to kind of work on. Maybe not necessarily that prema. If you feel that you have an understanding that prema is the goal, but maybe also how Krishna, simply worshiping Krishna, can really, that's the way to achieve that goal and every other smaller goal in between. And we I think one way to kind of build faith in that is to reflect very deeply on things we value in our life and things we've achieved, or things that have just happened to us that are beautiful, and to really look deeply at those things and try to find that connection between those things and Krishna, between those things and the merciful glance of a Vaishnava, and try to understand how everything that's truly good in an absolute sense in our life had some connection to Krishna, somehow was related to we or or someone else in relation to us worshipped Krishna, and somehow that connection brought that beautiful element into our life. And the more we can understand that, um, the more we'll have faith that for these other things we want, it's not that we do something else, but that we try to um, hone that method even more. That has gotten us the beauty that we see in our life now. We try to hone that more to increase that and bring more of those good things, those beautiful, really good, sacred things into our life through worship. And there's one nice verse in connection to this, another one from Srimad Bhagavatam, also quoted in Chaitanya Charitamrita, which I stumbled on before recently, where Mahaprabhu is touring South India and he runs into the Brahmin leper, Vasudeva, and he embraces him. And he takes away all his leprosy and cures him. And Vasudeva, in return, quotes this verse from the Bhagavatam, which is originally quoted by Sudam to Krishna, where he says, Kaham darija papiyan ka Krishna Sriniketana Ramabandhu iti smaham ahubhyam parirambita. Who am I, a sinful, poor friend of a Brahmin? And who is Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, full in six opulences? Nonetheless, he has embraced me with his two arms. I like how that ends. Bahubhyam means like by the arms, and Pairambita means embrace. Pairambita just sounds like a festival. Pairambita, fireworks going on. But in connection to what we've been talking about, I was thinking of this. I mean, the verse says Brahmabandhu, a friend of a Brahmin. But of course, this in our case could be extended to a Vaishnava, or just a friend of a Vaishnava. Somehow a Vaishnava has befriended us and shown mercy to us. And just because of that, we have this opportunity for Krishna in in all of our wretchedness, in our poor mental states and desires and so forth, and all of that. Krishna is willing to embrace us with his two arms. Ubhyam parirambita. So I think we could, in an extended sense, we could kind of see all these beautiful manifestations in our lives as Krishna trying to embrace us, and through the mercy of a Vaishnava that's coming to us, that all success, that's the success we want. Krishna hugging us. So whatever your desire, surrender to Krishna. Another thing you can meditate on too, in this regard, is how much is really in your control. Thinking about, from physical to subtle, all the elements of our being, how much happens to us that we have so little control over on a daily basis, on a monthly, yearly, or a lifetime. How much is almost already written in stone in some ways. Um, and, you know, Krishna can, of course, rearrange those stones, but they're there, and those stones are there, and they're kind of waiting for us. So it's yeah, there's I mean, we can do something, um, it's not that uh, we're just like a leaf in the river, but in some sense we are. It's what we can do essentially is beg for the mercy, uh, serving Krishna and having connection to that Kripa Shakti to influence those stones of our life, those things that we don't have control over. We just kind of meditate. It's almost like a natural next step if you just meditate on all those things you don't have control over. The next step is naturally to worship Krishna, um, because you can't you can't change him yourself. Um, so he can. So the Sri Ramaj is expressing here is the foundation of Sharanagati is this full-hearted belief that no other path or methodology will help us more than serving Krishna, um, in any of our endeavors, any of our goals, any things we want to achieve, which ultimately, hopefully, should all be pointing to prema. There's this verse in Bhagavad Gita where Krishna says, 10:10, Desham satara yuktanam vajatam pritipurvakam dami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayantite. And from Guru Maharaj's Bhagavad Gita, it's translated, to those who are constantly devoted, who worship me with love, I give the power of discrimination by which they can come to me. By which they come to me. So I think this verse connects pretty strongly, this whole part of the Bhagavad Gita. Actually, in Guru Maharaj's commentary, he quotes Madhusudan Saraswati in relation to the previous verse. Madhusudan Saraswati says that the devotees feel we have attained everything through this much devotion alone. There is no need for anything else to be achieved. So I think that I like that quote. It seems to connect very well to this idea that all success is achieved simply by serving Krishna. But in relation to this verse 10:10, first off, this verse is very dear to Guru Maharaj. I believe it was the first verse he memorized. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong on that. But some Swami calls it go. I'd love if someone could find that, that'd be very nice. But he glorified it very profusely, and almost to the extent of saying, if this is the one verse you have, then this is enough. Everything is there in this one, and it really, I mean, from the beginning to the end of the path, this verse is really it covers everything. And I think because the reason because that is because it's so intimately connected with Sharanagati, um, and the outer expression, um, how what that means. And one thing I really like about this verse is there's two elements in it. One is simplicity, um, constant devotion, worship me with love. So it's pretty simple. Love, worship me with love. But then there's also complexity. I give the power of discrimination by which they come to me. And discrimination, that involves maybe some thinking. Um, so it's not that we don't, in the name of Sharanagati, we don't deal with complexity um, in our lives. But the idea being expressed here is that we approach that with a simple, humble, devoted heart. Not that we become complex when we enter into those complexities, and we start to we start to become what's the word? I mean, just we lose that simplicity. Um, we you know there's a fine line between being able to navigate something, to be in it but not of it, but then also to be in it and of it. So you have to be careful, very careful, um, of navigating that process. And ultimately, this is the way through constant devotion, worship, and love. And so to kind of enter that with a simple, loving heart, always dependent, always serving, worshiping, loving Krishna, looking to him for the answer. That's how complex things become simple. Things that seem overwhelming, things that seem very um, unbearable or difficult, many layers, they they'll become clear, and they'll become because the path will become clear, and all that rubbish to the side will just be pushed away, and Krishna will give that. Krishna will give that discrimination to his Sharanagata, um, because he wants, because Krishna is very merciful to his Sharanagata, and he wants him to attain all success. So we'll continue now with the verse. The theme of the work. This is kind of a definition given by Sri Maharaj of Sharanagati, which he then goes on to unpack a bit and give more support for. But we're just going to kind of look at this verse for today. Second part. So the first one, just to repeat, is being governed by the faith that all success is achieved by serving the Supreme Lord. The second part, to abandon servitude to even scriptural injunctions and take exclusive refuge in the lotus feet of Sri Krishna. So this is an interesting part. And it gets pretty personal in this part, where he says to abandon serving even scriptural injunctions. So it's an interesting statement. I think it needs to be understood properly. Hopefully I can explain it properly. In one sense, I think he's referring to Vaidimarg scriptural injunctions. The idea that we we have these reverential, dutiful rules for serving God, that these rules almost take precedence over the love, that any act of service has to be done in a certain order, has to be done in a certain way, etc., or else that service, that offering won't be accepted by Sri Krishna or Narayan or so forth. So, in one sense, to abandon scriptural injunctions, he's talking about kind of more that Vaidimar rule-based formula for approaching God. But in another sense, in relation to our path, we could take it to mean that abandon servitude to even scriptural injunctions. We could take that to mean that we're not letting our scriptural statements in the Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and so forth, we're not letting them be as meaningful, as dynamic, and as living as they could be. In other words, not letting them be fully subservient and intimately part of Sri Krishna. So we're not taking shelter of an idea or a principle. We're taking shelter of a person. So it's kind of an interesting idea that truth is a person, a dynamic, moving, most moving, the most dynamic person, Krishna. And so, I think you have to be very careful how you separate these two, because scripture, Srimad Bhagavatam said to be an incarnation of God in this earth. So, of course, it's not that we're abandoning scriptural statements in Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, or any of our central Gaudiya texts, but it's that we're not stuck to the letter, because words can't really express all that the author was even trying to say. They're just trying to point to something. And in this, where Sri Maharaj says, take exclusive refuge in the lotus feet of Sri Krishna. So all these verses in scripture are all pointing in that direction, in the lotus feet of Sri Krishna. And so to be subservient to that more dynamic, living truth is really a very important component of Sharanagati. Sharanagati means surrender. So it's not that we're surrendering to a verse. I think that's very important, but that we're surrendering to something living, something very dynamic, something moving. And we don't know where it's going to move. We don't know where it's going to go. We don't know what it's going to say. But we're surrendered to it. We trust it. We love it. And that it literally defines truth as it moves. It's not that you say this is truth, this is the box of truth, and anything outside of this is non-truthful, but it's wherever Krishna or the Vaishnava goes, that's where truth follows. So truth is really serving Krishna and the Vaishnavas. and beauty. All these things are serving Sri Krishna and the Vaishnavas. So we can't ever we have to be very careful not to get stuck on certain concepts, injunctions, and so forth that we've taken as an absolute in every circumstance. I think Guru Maharaj has talked about scripture as like an outline. He often gives the analogy of, each devotee eventually has to write their own page. And so, of course, this isn't something to try to jump into, but this is where we're going. This is part of where Sharanagati leads. And one who is fully surrendered to that moving, living person will, the book will continue. They'll allow the scripture to be as meaningful and as living as it really is. New commentaries will come, rewritings of the same book will come in different ways, in different moods. This is serving the lotus feet of Sri Krishna, and being open to all those possibilities. I think that's a very important Sharanagati. Sharanagati is anything is possible. I think Prabhupada liked to quote Napoleon. Impossible is a word in a fool's dictionary. So a fool would be someone who's not a Sharanagata, or someone who's not following a Sharanagata, because we should be open to any possibility. Doesn't mean blind. That doesn't mean, walking into something that will be very detrimental to us. But we should be open. Maybe something didn't work 10 times and we need space, but maybe that 11th time it will. Who knows? Open to such things. Smart. Like Krishna said before in the Bhagavad Gita, discerning. We have to be discerning but open. So it's bringing these two together. And I think that's very central on the Ragmarg, that we're always this possibility. We're always on the cusp of something amazing, right? Because Krishna's on the other side. Sharanagati, especially on the Ragmarg, is filled with chamatkar, astonishment, because Krishna's very dynamic, and if we are surrendered to him, if we're open to hear and see what he wants to do, it'll be very astonishing where he brings us, what he has us do, how he moves us, how he makes us feel. So there's this excitement, but there's also this humility, because we're always listening for his blessing of our next step. He could go a different direction. We don't want to take the lead. We always want him to be in the lead, and always attentive. Never getting stuck in a certain movement, but always attentive and listening to see, is he still going this way? I like how all the cows wait for Krishna to go first. Most usually you have to get behind a cow, sometimes with a rope or stick, just to get them moving. But with the Gomatas in Golok, they just follow. They just follow Krishna. They wait for him to go first because they want to see him. They want to follow his footprints, the path that he's gone, because he'll know where the best grass is, the best rivers are for bathing, and so forth. We may find something, a little something to munch on over here, but he'll bring us to some fresh pasture. So this kind of eagerness and patience, I think this is very essential to Sharanagati. Very eager for what Krishna may do, but patient because Krishna has to do it, not us. And one verse that I think expresses this very nicely is 10:14:8, Srimad Bhagavatam. Brahma, in his prayers, it's a very famous verse, Tattenu kampam sushikshamanu mujanya evatma kritam vipakam virvag vipapubir vidaran namaste vivetoyo mukti pade sadayava. My dear Lord, one who earnestly waits for you to bestow your causeless mercy upon him, all the while patiently suffering the reactions of his past misdeeds and offering you respectful obeisances within his heart, words, and body, is surely eligible for liberation, for it has become his rightful claim. So, I think this, so eagerness and patience. And in this verse, Brahma puts them actually, they're right next to each other. Susikshamana means earnestly hoping for, and bunjana means enduring. So one who earnest means like sincere with intense conviction. So there's this kind of eagerness, intense conviction that Krishna's mercy is waiting for me. But bunjana, enduring, that I'm patient for it. I'm waiting for it because I want his mercy. I don't want my mercy. I'm willing to suffer the reactions of my past misdeeds. I'm not going to try to avoid those because going through those will avail me to Krishna's mercy. Not running from those, but willing to go through those and sit through those. Krishna, because that's what Krishna's put on my path, right? I've worshipped him. I've done what I could, and still this suffering has come. So that means I know he's not taking this away for a reason, because through his worship, one gets all success. So all success may mean suffering at this time. All success may mean going through some trial or tribulation. That's what our worship of Krishna may bring at times. But we should know that, going back to what's truly good in an absolute sense, that may be what's truly good at the moment. That may be what I need on this one step towards praying. So we have to be willing to endure certain things in the cultivation of Sharanagati. this verse by Brahma also kind of leads into the last part of the verse, the verse we're looking at by Sri Ramaj. Brahma in the one we're looking at, where he says, even while enduring this suffering that one has to go through, this karmic suffering, one's still offering respectful obeisances with his heart, words, and body. So that's kind of all of our domains that we're engaged on: subtle, verbal, physical. All those are being offered. Respectful obeisances, all those are being offered to Sri Krishna. And in the last part of the verse, Sri Ramaj says to take exclusive refuge in lotus feet of Sri Krishna in every time, place, and circumstance. So everywhere, anywhere and everywhere, is kind of the emphasis of this last part. That's part of Sharanagati. There's nothing outside of the scope of Sharanagati. Surrender does not mean it only touches this or it touches that, but surrender has a very far-reaching touch. It's able to incorporate everything, because it's extremely grounded in a real faith, kind of through and through, almost like a magnet. So if something gets in the way, that magnet's still there. A weaker magnet, may not be as strong sometimes, especially if there's some things in the way. But it's still that attempt to continue trying to serve and attach oneself to Krishna, the lotus feet of Krishna, through these different parts of the journey. And this firm, kind of grounded Sharanagati that Sri Ramaj is talking about, that happens in every time, place, and circumstance. This starts in Nishta and is kind of fully in place at the stage of Ruchi, Sharanagati. And so one may say, well, okay, Sharanagati sounds very beautiful. If that's fully in place at the stage of Ruchi, how do I cultivate Ruchi? Mahaprabhu, being very merciful, has kind of given the formula for that in his third verse of Shikshastakam. Bhaktivinoda has showed how these verses all correspond to different steps and stages, and the third verse being Nishta, the fourth verse being Ruchi. And so Mahaprabhu gives kind of the components of Nishta that we can develop and cultivate this ultimately Sharanagati. So the main, of course, kind of the crux, verse Tranadapi Sunichena Taro Avishahisnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sarahari. So the main component of this third verse is Kirtaniya Sarahari, which this is, what we see in this verse by Sri Ramaj, every time, place, and circumstance. So Kirtaniya Sarahari means to always be glorifying Krishna, to always be worshiping Krishna. And the other parts of the verse, basically those things that are immensely immensely favorable for that. That's kind of because the other things, people can do, but they're not going to develop prem. So we can understand that the Kirtaniya Sarahari is kind of the crux that is going to develop Sharanagati, Ruchi, and so forth. But these other things are immensely favorable for that. These things will allow us to be able to engage in constant glorification of Krishna, humility, tolerance, not wanting veneration for ourselves, and like a deep respect and appreciation for others. Not just in word, not just trying to say nice things, but really to truly feel indebted and have a real sense of kind of gratefulness for those that are helping us along the path in direct and indirect ways. And so these qualities that a Vaishnava tries to take on and cultivate through prayer, ultimately, to really kind of pray for these things to awaken in us. These qualities make the heart very fertile, very ripe for the mercy of Krishna and the Vaishnavas to descend. And with that mercy, we can slowly kind of cultivate this constant glorification of Krishna in every time, place, and circumstance. And because just the more and more and more we avail ourselves to that and become part of that, and that's going to color everything in our lives, and everything is going to start encouraging us to develop a more surrendered attitude, more dependence on Krishna, and so forth. That Sridhar Maharaj, has so mercifully composed this whole book for, just a meditation on Sharanagati, on the importance of that. And this verse, the verses he's kind of compiled here are many beautiful kind of meditations that we can just take shelter of and reflect on, for trying to cultivate Sharanagati. So that's pretty much all I have for today. Looking at the theme of the work, I think it'd be nice to read it one more time, just kind of sit with it for a moment, and we can let that end the class. So, Vastu Nirnaya, Bhagavad Bhaktita Sarvam, Ityuchridya Vider Api Kankaryam Krishna Paraika Shayatvam Sharanagati. Theme of the work: being governed by the faith that all success is achieved by serving the Supreme Lord, to abandon servitude to even scriptural injunctions and take exclusive refuge in the lotus feet of Sri Krishna in every time, place, and circumstance, is known as Sharanagati, unconditional surrender. Okay, so that's what we have for today. Hopefully this will inspire devotees to maybe check out Sridhar Maharaj's book, or come to understand more about the elements of Sharanagati. And yeah, thank you for allowing me to speak on Sri Maharaj's work today, and all glories to all the Vaishnavas. Vanshakapatarubyascha kripa sindhubhyevacha patitanam bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo. Okay. Hari Hari.